am a simpleton. Yet simpletons have their own lucky married Prince Ning. Xiao Mo. He cherished me above all else. A fact known to all, but when I was about to give birth, he abandoned me to be with another woman. I heard that Xiao Mo had originally intended to marry her. The Empress Dowager refused, bestowing her upon another instead. So he settled for marrying a simpleton. I listened outside the door, tears soaking through my sleeves. That night, I left my divorce petition. On the way back to my parents' home, I bled to death, dead. I could never know that Xiao Mo had always been arrogant and unapproachable and early lost his mind upon seeing my petition. I reawakened at 16, the day before Xiao Mo was to propose. Everything could still be changed. This time, I would never reach for him again. Main text: a tearing agony ripped through my lower abdomen. Warm blood soaked through my skirt, clinging viscously to my legs. Lying in the cold mud, my consciousness fading. I thought I could still see Xiao Mo's retreating figure as he ran toward that woman in purple. The jade pendant at his waist swayed with his movement, blindingly bright, pure as mountain snow, bright as moon in clouds. Hearing your heart has changed. I come to sever ties. With my last ounce of strength, I silently recited the words from the divorce decree. Tears mingled with blood trickled down my face. Finally, darkness engulfed my vision, and I lost consciousness completely. When I opened my eyes again, the familiar sweet scent of osmanthus cakes lingered around my nose, and the steady snoring of Xiao He filled my ears. I sat up abruptly, my chest heaving violently. Looking down at my skirt, a clean lake blue richu, and I saw not a single trace of blood. Young mistress, why are you awake so early? Startled by my movement, Xiao sat up, rubbing her eyes as she reached to untangle the hairpin caught in my locks. This pin's all tangled again. Don't make a fool of yourself in the palace. Later the Empress Dowager will be questioning you. Enter the palace. The Empress Dowager's questioning. I froze, staring at Q's youthful face. She still wore the old dress we had embroidered together 6 years ago, before my wedding. My hand trembled as I reached down to touch my abdomen. It felt flat and warm, no heavy weight of impending childbirth, no agonizing pain of hemorrhage. Xiao. My voice carried an imperceptible tremor. What day is today? The Empress Dowager's birthday banquet. Xiao replied matter-of-factly. You went with Princess Rongchang to the matchmaking temple yesterday to draw fortune sticks. How could you forget after just one night's sleep? The matchmaking temple, the Empress Dowager's banquet. I lifted the carriage curtain and looked out. Sure enough, father and mother's carriage followed behind. Not far ahead stood the imposing gates of the imperial palace. I had been reborn, back to 16 years old. Back to the day before Xiao Mo proposed. Memories of my past life flooded back like a tidal wave. I had been knocked senseless as a child. Everyone laughed that I'd never marry. Yet Xiao Mo married me with great pomp and circumstance. He treated me exceptionally well, shielding me from harm. I believed myself the luckiest person alive. But just as I was about to give birth, I discovered he still harbored feelings for his childhood sweetheart. I was merely a compromise after had missed his true love upon he used to provoke the Empress Dowager. I left him a divorce petition, only to be attacked by a mad horse on my way back to my parents' home. Dying from hemorrhaging, until my last breath. I never knew that upon seeing the petition, Xiao Mo would chase after me like a madman, falling gravely ill for my sake. But what difference did it make? The damage was done. Trust shattered beyond repair. This lifetime, I would never repeat that mistake. I would never marry Xiao Mo. Miss, please disembark. We've reached the palace gates. He tugged at my sleeve. I drew a deep breath, suppressing the surge of excitement and lingering fear within me, and followed father and mother off the carriage. The procession entering the palace stretched on endlessly. I deliberately kept my head bowed. Yet my gaze drifted involuntarily toward the distant. Xiao Mo stood there, clad in a jet-black brocade robe, his posture erect. His eyes bore their usual icy detachment, though his complexion seemed paler than I remembered. In my past life, it was at this very birthday banquet that the Empress Dowager inquired about my marriage prospects. Foolishly, I admitted I sought a union with Xiao Mo. The Empress Dowager immediately bestowed the marriage decree, ushering in 6 years of joy that ultimately ended in tragedy. Minister Shen, Lady Shen, it has been a long time. Xiao Mo's palanquin abruptly halted before us, leaning against the cushions. His gaze swept over me with a fleeting, subtle complexity. And this is Miss Shen. She is indeed quite striking. Father hastily bowed in greeting. Your Highness flatters us. My daughter possesses only ordinary talents. She must seem rather dull to your Highness. I kept my head bowed, heart pounding wildly as my nails dug deep into my palms. It was him, truly him. The look in his eyes now seemed to hold something more than when we first met in my past life. Was it scrutiny? Or reluctance? Could he also? I dared not dwell on it, praying only for this birthday banquet to end swiftly, hoping to evade that accursed arranged marriage. Entering the banquet hall, officials lined both sides while the Empress Dowager sat upon the high dais, her smile benevolent. I stood beside Mother in the women's procession, holding my breath, mentally rehearsing how to respond to the Dowager's questions. Midway through the banquet, the Empress Dowager turned her gaze upon me, her tone affectionate. Little fish, Rongchang mentioned you visited the matchmaking temple yesterday. Did you find someone to your liking? All eyes instantly focused on me, including Xiao Mo's heavy stare. As if weighed down by 1,000 pounds, my palms grew sweaty as scenes from my past life flashed before my eyes. I blushingly admitted my feelings for Xiao Mo. A flicker of surprise crossed his eyes, and then he nodded in agreement to the Empress Dowager's arranged marriage. No, I must not repeat that mistake. I snapped my head up, my gaze cutting through the crowd to land on the youth in silver armor not far away, Pei Heong. In my past life, he was the young general revered throughout the capital. At 17, he led campaigns, slaying countless foes. Yet shortly after my marriage to Xiao Mo, he fell in battle beneath Helan Mountain. Your Imperial Majesty. I drew a deep breath, my cheeks flushing crimson. Yet my voice remained unnaturally clear. What this humble maiden seeks is General Pei Heong. The words fell, and the grand hall fell silent for a moment. I could feel Xiao Mo's gaze turn icy, piercing my back like an ice spike. Pei Heong also froze in place, suddenly lifting his head to look at me. His ears flushed crimson, and he stood there flustered and at a loss. The Empress Dowager paused, then smiled. So it's the young master of the Pei family. He seems quite a fine lad. I lowered my head, my heart still pounding. Never mind first. I must evade Xiao Mo. General Pei Heong possessed peerless charm. Countless women in the capital admired him. My declaration of affection for him wouldn't seem out of place. What I hadn't anticipated was Xiao Mo, seated not far away, abruptly setting down his wine cup. His fingertips turned white, his face pale as death, as if struck by a tremendous shock. Why such a violent reaction? Could he truly have been reborn too? The thought barely surfaced before I forced it down. How could such a coincidence exist? I was surely overthinking it. After the birthday banquet ended, I hurried out of the palace with Father and Mother, desperate to distance myself from Xiao Mo. As we passed through the palace gates, I instinctively glanced back. There he stood beneath the corridor, his gaze fixed on me, a look so complex it was impossible to decipher. It held a hint of reluctance and a pain I couldn't fathom. My heart tightened. I quickly turned my head away and quickened my pace. Xiao Mo, in this lifetime, I will not reach for you again, nor will I give you another chance to hurt me. Our ill-fated connection ends here. The lingering strains of the palace banquet's music still echoed in my ears. Yet the sweet fragrance of the osmanthus cakes on the table held no allure for me. Head bowed, my fingers dug desperately into my skirt hem as I silently prayed the Empress Dowager wouldn't notice me. But what you fear most is precisely what comes to pass. Little fish. The Empress Dowager's voice carried a hint of amusement, shattering my fleeting hope. Yesterday Rongchang mentioned you also visited the matchmaking temple. Did you find someone to your liking? Instantly, all eyes turned to me like spotlights, the air itself seeming to freeze. I felt a familiar gaze settle on my back. Heavy and unyielding it was Xiao Mo. Memories from my past life surged back. In a similar setting, the Empress Dowager had inquired about marriage, and I foolishly blushed and admitted it, silently praying for Xiao Mo's name. Had been seated nearby then, a faint smile playing on his lips, tacitly approving the match. But I never imagined that the seemingly perfect union would end in such a tragic, brutal way. No, I absolutely cannot repeat that mistake. Panicked, I lifted my eyes, scanning the crowd frantically, desperate for an excuse to deflect the question. Just then, my gaze landed on a youth not far away, Pei Heong, dressed in a silver-gray martial uniform, his jet-black hair pulled back high, his features sharp and commanding. He held a wine cup while conversing with others, his brow radiating youthful vigor and ambition. I remembered him, the young general from my past life, who had marched to war at 17, slain countless foes, yet perished on the slopes of Helan Mountain shortly after my marriage to Xiao Mo. Countless women in the capital adored him. And if I said I liked him, no one would doubt it. What this humble maiden seeks is General Pei Heong. The words nearly slipped out before I could stop them, my cheeks flushing crimson, my voice carrying a barely perceptible tremor. As the words fell, the grand hall fell silent for a moment before a murmur of low whispers filled the air. I could feel the gaze on my back suddenly turn icy, piercing me like an ice spike, sending a chill down my spine. I stole a glance upward and saw Xiao Mo's hand holding the wine cup pause slightly. A few drops spilled from the vessel, staining his dark brocade robe with a deep mark. He lifted his head, his gaze locking directly on mine. His eyes held disbelief, as if he couldn't trust his own ears. His complexion instantly paled, appearing even more frail than at the beginning of the birthday banquet. Why such a strong reaction? Could he have truly reincarnated too? The thought made my heart clench, yet I dared not dwell on it. Turning to Pei Heong, he too was clearly caught off guard by this sudden confession. His hand holding the wine cup froze midair, his cheeks flushing crimson, ears turning bright red. His eyes darted nervously toward me before quickly averting, leaving him standing there flustered, unable to utter a single coherent word. Oh, so it's the young master of the Pei family, the Empress Dowager murmured, her expression shifting from surprise to amusement. He's a fine lad, perfectly suited for our little Yu. I kept my head bowed, unable to meet Xiao Mo's gaze or Pei Heong's. My heart pounded wildly, my palms drenched in cold sweat. Thankfully, the Empress Dowager didn't press further, instead turning to small talk with other officials' wives. This terrifying interrogation was finally over. After the palace banquet, I hurried out of the palace with father and mother, desperate to escape this place of turmoil. As we passed through the palace gates, loud laughter echoed behind us. Turning, I saw several young aristocrats mocking Pei Heong. Pei Heong, how thrilled are you to be adored by a simpleton? I say, you should marry her. What courage she shows, it suits you perfectly. Pei Heong's expression remained unchanged, but he threatened with a faint, mocking smile. Keep talking nonsense, and I'll have your tongues cut out. The boys, their taunts having fallen flat, sulkily fell silent. Pei Heong turned just as our eyes met. The moment grew awkward, unsure how to react. I offered him an apologetic smile. He froze, his ears flushing even redder. Swiftly averting his gaze, he strode toward his carriage, unable to meet my eyes again. Mother, holding my hand, watched the boys run off and muttered under her breath, what kind of people are they, daring to mock my daughter like that? Father chimed in, exactly. I'll make sure to report these brats' fathers properly. Let them learn some manners. I pressed my lips together, feeling a pang of guilt. What had Pei Heong done to deserve this? Dragged into the fray for no reason, only to be mocked. But I had no choice if I hadn't done this. I feared the Empress Dowager would have forced me into marriage with Xiao Mo once more. Just then, Xiao Mo's sedan chair abruptly halted beside us. Within the palace walls, he alone was permitted to travel by sedan chair, privilege ID once cherished in my past life, yet now found only jarring. My breath caught. I quickly lowered my head and bowed alongside father and mother. Leaning against the cushions, Xiao Mo's face remained pale as he looked at father. Minister Shin, are you leaving already? Yes. Yes. Father hurriedly replied. Has your highness' illness improved? Thank you for your concern. Minister Shin, I am well, he said, clearing his throat softly. Closing his eyes briefly to steady himself, he turned his gaze back to me, his expression unfathomable. Is this Minister Shin's daughter? I have never seen her enter the palace before. Father hurriedly agreed. Indeed. Jiayu, quickly pay your respects to his highness. My daughter is of ordinary talent. I fear she may disappoint his highness. Why say such a thing? Xiao Mo's voice was cool, yet carried an undeniable authority. Your daughter's beauty and intelligence surpass countless others in this world. He might be right about the beauty, but as for intelligence, I was utterly lacking. Father, embarrassed by the remark, could only offer an awkward grin. I kept my head bowed, unable to meet his gaze, my heart pounding wildly. I prayed he'd leave quickly and not speak to me. Thankfully, he asked no more questions. He merely raised his hand to signal his attendance, and the sedan chair was lifted away. Only when the sedan chair vanished into the distance did I let out a quiet breath. My back was soaked through with cold sweat. Father wiped the sweat from his brow and murmured, Prince Ning's illness seems rather serious. I heard he coughed up blood in the middle of the night, and the servants in the mansion were terrified. Mother looked surprised. How did he fall ill so suddenly? Just days ago, I saw him leading troops outside the capital to arrest someone. Listening to their discussion, I grew increasingly certain Xiao Mo must have reincarnated too, in my past life. He had been robust and never suffered such a severe illness. He certainly wouldn't have looked at me with such a complex gaze at this moment. Reborn once. Some things truly seemed different now. By the time I returned home, night had deepened, perhaps because I'd seen Xiao Mo. I couldn't sleep well all night. Lying in bed, I tossed and turned, thinking. That matchmaking plaque bearing Xiao Mo's name still hung in the matchmaking temple on Jade Mountain. If discovered, it would surely cause trouble. No, I must retrieve it immediately. The next morning, as dawn broke, I rose and summoned Qiuhe to help me prepare. Rubbing her eyes, Qiuhe looked bewildered. Miss, it's not even the 2nd hour yet. You usually don't get up until the 3rd hour. What's gotten into you today? I have urgent business requiring a trip to Yushan, I explained while dressing. Just then, my brother emerged from the inner room holding a steamed bun. Spotting me, he gave me a strange look. Stinky little fish. What's gotten into you? You've come back from the palace and suddenly turned into someone else. Why are you sitting so stiffly? I glanced down at myself and realized I'd unconsciously adopted the upright posture cultivated during my 6 years in the prince's mansion. I chuckled and walked over to tug his arm. Brother, where are you hunting wild pheasants? Can I come along? My brother looked surprised. You want to come? That's strange. Don't you hate the mosquitoes and bugs out in the wild? I want to see Jade Mountain. I pouted. Brother, please take me with you. Unable to refuse me, he finally agreed. Fine. You can come. Just use that little bow I had when we were kids. My heart leapt with joy finally. I could retrieve that troublesome marriage token. Little did I know this trip to Jade Mountain would lead me to cross paths with Xiao Mo and Pei Heiyang once more, putting my secret rebirth at risk of exposure. The forest of Jade Mountain was filled with the fresh scent of plants. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled patterns on the ground. I followed my brother forward, my heart racing with anxiety. My mind was consumed by thoughts of that matchmaking plaque hanging in the temple. In my past life, it was this very plaque that had sealed my ill-fated connection with Xiao Mo. This time around, I had to retrieve it and sever that bond completely. Hurry up. You little fish. Brother called back over his shoulder, twirling his small bow. Keep dawdling and someone'll shoot all the wild pheasants. I gave a quick reply and quickened my pace, though my eyes kept drifting back behind us. Pei Heong followed at a distance, his face expressionless. Yet every time I glanced back, his gaze darted away swiftly, his ears tinged with a faint blush. I felt terribly guilty about casually dragging him into the line of fire at yesterday's palace banquet. Seizing a moment when my brother wasn't looking, I slowed my pace and walked up beside Pei Heong. Young General Pei. That day in the palace hall, No need to say more, he interrupted, straightening his back with an air of understanding. Miss Shen's sincerity is known to me, but my family's teachings are strict. Without my parents' consent, I dare not make decisions on my own. No, that's not it, I hurriedly explained. I was just talking nonsense that day. I don't like you. It's just, I understand. He nodded, his smile pure yet carrying a hint of certainty. A young lad's pride is easily hurt. After I politely declined. You naturally needed a way to save face. Rest assured. Miss Shen, I have taken note of your feelings. Seeing his I understand everything expression, I was instantly at a loss for words. Never mind, the more I explained, the more tangled it would become. I declarify everything with him slowly after retrieving the matchmaking plaque. After walking for about the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, the matchmaking temple finally appeared ahead. Several familiar carriages were parked in front of the temple. Debao leaned over and whispered, Miss Shen, those are Prince Ning's carriages. I hear he came to pray for the Empress Dowager's blessings. Xiao Mo. What was he doing here? My heart sank, and my scalp prickled. This temple was famously for seeking matches. Why would a prince choose this place for blessings? Could it be, as Debao suggested, that it housed a hall of the Lord Lao? Or had he deliberately come here to wait for me? Brother. Wait for me. I'll change clothes and be right back. I composed myself and told my brother, then dashed into the temple without waiting for his reply. The temple was bustling. Taoist priests performed rituals before the Lao Jun Hall, smoke swirling thickly, dodging the crowd. I followed memories from my past life to the rear courtyard. There stood a towering ancient tree, its branches laden with marriage prayer plaques. Thankfully, my plaque was still there, hidden in a concealed branch where no one but me could find it. Tiptoeing, I carefully plucked it down and clutched it in my palm. The cool wood against my skin finally eased the knot in my chest. What are you doing? A deep voice suddenly echoed behind me, piercing the surrounding silence like an ice spike. My body stiffened. Blood seemed to freeze in an instant. Slowly turning around, I saw Xiao Mo standing at the doorway. His dark brocade robe made his complexion appear even paler, his gaze unfathomably deep, as if he had been watching me for an unknown length of time. Your Highness, Prince Ning. I forced myself to remain calm, clutching the matchmaking token tightly behind my back. This humble maiden merely came to change her clothes and mistakenly entered the wrong place. Change clothes. He took 2 steps forward, his gaze settling on the hand hidden behind my back. This does not appear to be a changing room. His aura was overwhelming, pressing down on me until I could scarcely breathe. I instinctively took a step back, my back hitting the tree trunk. Perhaps I misremembered. I shall leave at once. What do you hold in your hand? He pressed closer, his tone carrying an undeniable weight of authority. Nothing. I bit my lip, the wooden tablet in my palm nearly crushed in my grip. A matchmaking tablet. Is it? His light chuckle carried a barely perceptible bitterness. At yesterday's palace banquet, you said you sought Pei Heong. The tablet bore his name, did it not? My heart lurched. How could he be so certain? Had he truly reincarnated too? knowing his name was inscribed upon it. Yes. I forced myself to admit it, lifting my gaze to meet his. The matchmaking tablet naturally bears the name of one's beloved. Beloved. He repeated the words, then began coughing violently. He covered his mouth with a handkerchief, his shoulders trembling slightly. When he lowered the handkerchief, I clearly saw droplets of crimson seeping through the fabric. His body had deteriorated to such a frail state. In my past life, he had been robust and vigorous, never appearing so wretched. Your Highness, please take care of yourself. I averted my gaze, unwilling to witness his current state. My heart filled with mixed emotions. Why did you remove it? He stifled his cough, his gaze intense as he fixed it upon me. If he is the one you cherish, why destroy this match? Because General Pei has no interest in this humble maiden. I lowered my eyes, offering a flimsy excuse. This matchmaking temple holds no power. Keeping it serves no purpose. Better to remove it and seek another temple instead. Change temples. He raised an eyebrow, his gaze carrying a hint of scrutiny. It seems your feelings for Pei Heong run deep indeed. Yes, they run deep. I cannot control them. I spoke each word deliberately, my tone firm as if persuading him, yet also as if persuading myself. Can you tell me why you like him? He suddenly asked, his voice low and tinged with an almost imperceptible hint of hurt. I froze for a moment, my mind racing to find a reason. Finally, I replied calmly. I was foolish and slow-witted from childhood, a source of ridicule to others. Only General Pei never mocked me. He stared at me blankly, a complex emotion flickering in his eyes, a mix of heartache and regret. You were never foolish. Don't speak such self-deprecating words. Those words felt painfully familiar. In my past life, whenever someone mocked my stupidity, he had shielded me just like this. My heart clenched sharply, and my eyes instantly stung. But I quickly snapped back to reality. The kindness in my past life was real, and so was the betrayal that followed. I couldn't repeat the same mistakes. Thank you for your concern. Your Highness, I have matters to attend to and must take my leave. I sidestepped him and quickened my pace toward the door. Qin Jiayu, he called out suddenly, a hint of urgency in his voice. My steps halted, but I didn't turn back. Just then, Pei Hyang's voice came from the doorway. Your Highness. Prince Ning. I looked up to see Pei Hyang standing at the entrance. His ears flushed, his eyes slightly flustered. I saw you hadn't returned, so I came to check. I'm fine. Let's go. Clutching at this lifeline, I hurried to Pei Hyang's side. Avoiding Xiao Mo's gaze, Pei Hyang bowed to Xiao Mo before leading me out. As we passed Xiao Mo, I could feel his gaze fixed on my back, heavy enough to make my breath catch. I dared not turn around, only quickening my pace to escape this suffocating place. Stepping outside the temple gates, I realized my back was drenched in cold sweat. Glancing back, Xiao Mo still stood where he was, a lonely figure leaning against the wall, seemingly struggling to endure some physical discomfort. Are you all right? Pei Hyang noticed my unease and asked with concern. I'm fine. I shook my head, clutching the matchmaking token tighter in my hand. Let's hurry down the mountain. What I didn't know was that after we left, Xiao Mo slowly slid to the ground, clutching his chest as he began to cough violently. The blood stain on his handkerchief grew larger. He stared in the direction Qin Jiayu had departed, his gaze shattered, filled with endless resentment and despair. How could he not know? His name was inscribed on that matchmaking token, Reborn. He believed that by following the path of his past life, he could marry her again and make amends for his previous regrets. But he never imagined everything had changed. Not only did she no longer love him, she had even found another excuse. This time, it seemed he truly would lose her. When I received Princess Rongcheng's invitation to the flower viewing, Mother was more excited than I was. She spent 2 hours dressing me, adorning my hair with golden hairpins, and kept urging, Young General Pei will be there too. You must make a good impression, don't let that young lady outshine you. I tugged at the corners of my mouth before the bronze mirror. In my past life, I was foolish and clueless. Unable even to manage basic pleasantries, let alone understand what making a good impression meant. But now, things were different. Reborn with a clear mind, I could effortlessly calculate sums within 10 and even spot errors in my brother's ledgers. This transformation astonished me. On the carriage ride to the princess residence, Chilha chattered away about the capital's latest gossip. But my mind was elsewhere, in those noble ladies who'd once fawned over me, feigning kindness. In my past life, I'd been foolish, believing their affection was genuine. Only at death's door did I realize they'd merely been currying favor for Xiao Mo's sake. No sooner had I entered the pavilion at the princess residence than I encountered those familiar faces. Madame Li and Madame Wang were seated together, chatting and laughing. Upon seeing me enter, their voices abruptly fell silent, their eyes brimming with undisguised contempt. "Oh, isn't this Miss Shin?" Lady Li covered her mouth with a laugh, her voice loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "I hear Miss Shin can't even count properly. How did she manage to join the flower viewing banquet?" Whispers of laughter rippled through the crowd. I clenched my sleeves, but unlike in my past life, I didn't panic. I merely gave her a faint glance. "The princess has invited me. Naturally, I must attend." Madame Li hadn't expected a reply. She paused, then laughed again. "True enough, the princess is kind-hearted, unwilling to exclude anyone. But when we play games later, Miss Shin might just spoil everyone's fun." I said nothing more and found a seat in a corner. In my past life, such mockery would have made me hide away and cry. But now I knew. Instead of defending myself, I'd let my actions speak. Midway through the banquet, Princess Rongchang clapped her hands and proposed cheerfully. "Drinking and admiring flowers alone is dull. Let's play a game instead. Whoever solves this 9-square grid wins this inlaid wooden box as a prize." Maidservant swiftly brought a wooden board painted with a 9-square grid. 3 cells filled with numbers and 6 left blank. The princess explained the rules. The sum of the 3 numbers in each horizontal row, vertical column, and diagonal must be equal. Whoever completes it correctly first wins the prize. Several young nobles and ladies immediately stepped forward to try. Pens scribbled across the board. But no matter how they calculated, the sums didn't add up. Some scratched their heads in frustration, while others simply gave up. "This is an impossible puzzle. There can't be a solution." Princess Rongchang raised an eyebrow. "You can't solve it, so you call it impossible." Just then, Lady Li stepped forward. Her gaze swept over me as she smiled warmly. "Princess, this game is certainly entertaining, but some at this banquet may not be able to play. Miss Shin cannot even count numbers under 10. Such a difficult puzzle would surely be beyond her. Why not switch to something like arrow throwing or leaf tossing? That way, Miss Shin could participate too." Her words sparked even louder laughter around us. Some agreed. "Lady Li is right. Let's not leave Miss Shin standing alone." Others murmured under their breath. "A simpleton, what's she doing here?" I sprang to my feet, my voice calm yet firm. "Who says I can't play?" The entire hall fell silent instantly, all eyes fixed on me. Madame Li paused, then burst out laughing. "Miss Shin, don't be so stubborn. I mean no harm, I simply didn't want to embarrass you. Whether I'm stubborn or not, you'll see once I try." I stepped forward and took the charcoal pencil from the maid's hand. The cold wood touched my fingertips, and my mind cleared instantly. The numbers seemed to come alive, arranging themselves automatically. In my past life, my brother had studied similar puzzles. I hadn't understood them then, but now the solutions floated clearly in my mind. After a moment's thought, I swiftly filled in the empty squares with numbers. The pencil scratched across the wood, and in moments, all 6 cells were complete. Finished. I set down the charcoal pencil and stepped aside. The crowd gathered around, voices buzzing as they verified the solution. The horizontal row adds up to 15, the vertical column 2, and the diagonal. It really is correct. How is that possible? She actually solved it. I've been trying for ages and couldn't figure it out. How did she do it so fast? Madame Li's face flushed alternately pale and crimson, clearly refusing to believe it. She stepped forward, wiped the numbers off the board, and randomly filled in 3 new ones herself. Do it again. I want to see if you're just guessing. The surrounding murmurs died down. Everyone waited to see me fail. I looked at the new numbers on the board, my mind racing through the calculations. Within a breath, I had the answer. I picked up the pencil again and filled in the numbers, my movements just as swift and precise. This time, without waiting for others to verify, Lady Li calculated it herself. Her expression darkened with each step, until she stood there speechless. Her face flushed with embarrassment. Right again. Miss Shin is incredible. People used to call her foolish, but I think they were mistaken. Miss Shin is clearly brilliant. Princess Rongchang clapped her hands with a smile. Excellent. Today's 9 Palaces grid winner is Shinjiayu. The prize is yours. A maid handed me the exquisite inlaid wooden box. Its carvings were intricate, adorned with tiny pearls and gems. Holding the box, I looked at Lady Li. Her eyes darted away, no longer daring to meet mine. In that moment, my heart held little wild joy. Only a sense of release. Reborn. I had not only escaped death but also reclaimed my lost sanity. Those who once mocked me now felt ashamed in my presence. The gazes of those around me had changed, filled with surprise, admiration, and even some who approached me to strike up conversations. No one dared utter the word fool anymore. I responded with ease and experience utterly foreign to my former self. Princess Rongchang approached me, studying me curiously. Miss Shin, you've hidden your depth well. I must admit I misjudged you before. Your Highness flatters me. It was mere luck, I replied with a smile. Just then, a faint stir arose behind us. Someone murmured, "Why has His Highness Prince Ning come?" My heart tightened. Instinctively, I turned to see Xiao Mo standing not far away, clad in a black brocade robe. His face remained pale. His gaze settled on me, heavy and probing. Why was he here? Was he testing me again? I clenched the wooden box in my hand, forcing myself to calm down. Whatever his purpose, this lifetime, I would not let him control me. The moment the box opened, a golden hairpin caught my eye, its dazzling brilliance stinging my vision. The pin's body was intricately carved with intertwined lotus patterns, its top adorned with a perfectly round pearl. Below hung delicate jade pendants that emitted a soft tinkling sound with every gentle sway. This was the golden branch and jade blossom hairpin. In my past life, Xiao Mo had personally drawn the blueprints and commissioned imperial artisans to craft it over 3 months as a token of our love. He had said it symbolized golden branches embracing jade, husband and wife united in heart. A token meant solely for us. How did it end up here? My fingertips trembled slightly as I lifted my gaze to see Xiao Mo emerge slowly from behind the screen. His face was as pale as paper, his lips devoid of color. Yet those eyes deep and unfathomable fixed on me with a hint of probing and desperate hope. So this flower viewing banquet was no coincidence at all. It was a carefully orchestrated test he had designed. He, too, had been reborn. He wanted to know if I carried memories from our past life. Miss Shin, do you still like this hairpin? His voice was low and hoarse, carrying an almost imperceptible tremor. I quickly composed myself, concealing the shock and disgust in my eyes behind a forced smile of delight. Of course I do. The craftsmanship is exquisite, and the design is so unique. I've never seen such a beautiful hairpin before. I lifted the golden hairpin, my fingertips gliding over its cool surface. The texture felt exactly as I remembered. In my past life, I had treasured it like a precious jewel, wearing it day and night. Even at the moment of my death, it had remained pinned in my hair, stained with blood. This hairpin is also known as golden branch embracing jade, symbolizing a couple sharing one heart, bringing joy and blessings. Xiao Mo's gaze locked onto me, as if searching my face for the slightest hint of deception. What a lovely meaning. I smiled and nodded, lifting my hand without hesitation to pin the golden hairpin into my bun. I even turned my head deliberately and asked Miss Sun beside me, "What do you think? Does it look good?" Miss Sun, who had also attended the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet that day, knew of my affection for Pei Heong. She immediately understood and covered her mouth with a laugh. "Absolutely stunning. This hairpin makes you look even more charming. If young General Pei saw you like this, he'd surely lose his mind." I lowered my head and feigned coyness, catching Xiao Mo's expression darken in my peripheral vision. The light in his eyes flickered and died, like a candle extinguished by the wind. "Since you like it, wear it well." He paused, his voice tinged with unmistakable disappointment. "I had hoped to share a cup of wine with you all, but my health fails me. I must take my leave." After speaking, he began coughing violently, covering his mouth with a handkerchief as his shoulders trembled slightly. When he lowered the handkerchief, I clearly saw droplets of crimson seeping through the white fabric. "Your Highness." An attendant rushed forward to support him, but he waved him away. He fixed me with a long, lingering loca gaze filled with reluctance, pain, and a hint of despair I couldn't quite grasp. In the end, he said nothing more. Turning, he staggered away from the pavilion, his retreating figure so lonely it made my heart ache. Only after his silhouette vanished completely did I slowly wipe the smile from my face. My fingers brushed the golden hairpin in my hair, cold to the touch. "Xiao Mo, do you think a single hairpin can mend the wounds of a past life? Do you believe that starting over will make me forget how you abandoned me on the day I gave birth to run off with another woman? It's too late. Everything is too late." The banquet continued, but my heart was no longer in it. My mind was filled with Xiao Mo's gaze from moments before. I knew he wouldn't give up easily. This entanglement was far from over. Finally, the banquet ended. I took my leave from Princess Rongchang, eager to escape this place of turmoil. As soon as I stepped out of the water pavilion, I saw Xiao Mo standing beneath a willow tree nearby, waiting for who knows how long. His complexion had improved slightly, though the red veins beneath his eyes remained distinct. Spotting me, he quickened his pace, blocking my path. "Miss Shen, does your highness require something further?" I deliberately kept my distance, my tone cool and distant. Would Miss Shen have a moment to hear a few words from me? His voice carried a hint of pleadinga posture I'd never seen from him in my past life. "I'm afraid not." I gave a dry chuckle, my mind racing to escape. Every second alone with him felt suffocating. Just then, a familiar voice called out, "Jiaoyu, didn't we agree to go home together? Why are you coming out so late?" I turned to see Pei Heong striding toward us, dressed in sleek black attire with his jet black hair tied back. He radiated youthful vigor. He gave Xiao Mo a slight nod of greeting before turning his smiling gaze toward me, his eyes holding a subtle, protective warmth. "What a godsend," I hurriedly replied. We were delayed for a moment. "Let's hurry." Without waiting for Xiao Mo to speak, I grabbed Pei Heong's forearm and turned to run. Pei Heong paused for a second, then cooperatively followed me at a brisk pace, not forgetting to turn back and bow his fist to Xiao Mo. "Your Highness, excuse us." Only after Wed fled the princess residence and climbed into the carriage did I exhale in relief, releasing Pei Heong's arm. Silence filled the carriage. Pei Heong's smile faded, his expression turning cold. "I'm leaving." "Wait." I called after him urgently. "What were you doing here?" "Just passing by," he replied curtly, not turning his head. "Just passing by. Yet you deliberately came in to find me." I raised an eyebrow, seeing right through his insincerity. His footsteps halted. He turned around, his ears flushing slightly as he awkwardly stammered, "I just thought you might not want to talk to him." "How'd you know?" I asked curiously. His name was on that crappy matchmaking plaque you took back. Then you went to the temple and told him you liked someone else. He scratched his head, his tone softening slightly. I figured he must done something to really piss you off. Girls, you know. When they stop liking someone, they hate them to death. They definitely don't want to see them again. My heart warmed. I hadn't expected him to be so observant beneath his carefree exterior. He clearly knew the matchmaking plaque bore Xiao Mo's name. Knew I'd lied to him earlier. Yet he still chose to believe me and went out of his way to cover for me. You're really kind, I said, looking at him with genuine sincerity. My compliment made him flustered, his ears turning even redder. He quickly stiffened his expression. It was nothing. Don't read too much into it. I'm not interested in you. I never said you were interested in me. I teased him. Humph. I'm leaving. I pushed open the carriage door, about to step out, when he called after me, Qin Jiayu. I turned to look at him. His eyes flickered, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he only managed. Drive safely. I nodded and stepped down from the carriage. By the time I got home, night had fallen. Sitting before my dressing table, I carefully removed the golden hairpin from my hair. Watching it gleam coldly in the candlelight, the sweetness and pain of my past life flashed through my mind like a movie. I picked up the golden hairpin, walked to the window, and threw it out with all my strength. It drew an arc through the air, landing in the grass of the courtyard and disappearing. Xiao Mo. The entanglements of our past life are like this golden hairpin. I never want to see it again, nor speak of it. This lifetime. I only wish to stay far from you and live my own life. Yet I never imagined this was merely the beginning. Xiao Mo's persistence proved far more relentless than I could have anticipated. He seemed convinced that as long as he didn't let go, I would eventually return to him. And then Pei Haiyang's appearance only muddied these waters further. I have no idea when this entanglement spanning 2 lifetimes will truly come to an end. Qiu He's voice, breathless and frantic, shattered the quiet courtyard like a pebble dropped into still water, sending the 16-panel diagram in my hands tumbling to the floor. What did you say? Pei Haiyang and I spoke almost simultaneously, our voices thick with disbelief. Had Xiao Mo lost his mind? I'd already rejected him outright, even using Pei Haiyang as a shield. Why wouldn't he give up? How dare he come to propose marriage in person? I bolted toward the front hall, Pei Haiyang close behind. Just as we reached the entrance, Father's voice reached us, tinged with a note of humiliation. Your Highness. It's not that I refuse. It's simply that my daughter is of mediocre talent and unworthy of your noble lineage. Minister Shin. There's no need for such modesty. Xiao Mo's voice was calm yet carried an unquestionable authority. I can guarantee that if Jiayu is willing to marry me, I will never treat her unfairly. Within the prince's residence, there will be no other woman besides her. But, Father was caught between a rock and a hard place, clearly intimidated by Xiao Mo's sincerity, or rather, his power. I don't want to. I could no longer hold back. Pushing open the slightly ajar door, I burst into the room. The atmosphere in the hall instantly froze. Father's mouth fell open in shock. Xiao Mo sat in the seat of honor. Seeing me enter, a fleeting, barely perceptible flicker of delight crossed his eyes, only to be quickly overshadowed by my resolute refusal. Jiayu, why have you come? Father hurriedly tried to pull me out. When adults are speaking, children should not interrupt. Father, marriage concerns my entire life. How could I not speak up? I wrenched free from his grasp and fixed my gaze on Xiao Mo. Your Highness, Prince Ning, we've met only a few times. You know nothing of me. Why must you marry me? Xiao Mo rose to his feet. His dark brocade robe made his pallor even more pronounced. Yet it did nothing to diminish his imposing presence. He circled the table, approaching me step by step, his expression tender as when head shielded me in my past life. Have I frightened you? Yes. I clenched my fingers, nails digging deep into my palms. I want to know, what exactly do you see in me? You are intelligent, beautiful, and of pure heart. Is that not enough? His gaze burned, as if it could pierce my very soul. Women like that are a dime a dozen. I retorted. You're second only to the emperor himself. What woman could you not have? Why force yourself on someone who doesn't want you? The room fell silent. Father and mother held their breath, while Pei Heian stood in the doorway, fists clenched, his gaze complex as he watched us. Xiao Mo's eyes blazed with fury, yet he forced himself to hold it back. His voice was hoarse as he asked, "Is your resistance because of Pei Heian?" I turned my face away, neither confirming nor denying. Some things need not be stated explicitly. One's attitude speaks volumes. His rage twisted into a bitter laugh, laced with scorn. You truly wish to marry him, but what can he offer you? Qin Jiayu, become my consort, and you shall be the most honored woman beyond the Forbidden City's walls. Whatever you desire shall be yours. Is the position of the Ning prince's principal consort truly inferior to being the wife of a mere fifth-rank general? Is your highness accusing me of being ungrateful? I met his gaze without flinching. You hold such power and prestige, yet you know nothing of what I truly desire. I care not for exalted status nor covet overwhelming authority. All I want is freedom to stay with my family and live a simple, peaceful life. I can give you all of that," he exclaimed urgently, his voice tinged with a barely perceptible flicker of panic. "You cannot." I shook my head gently, my tone calm yet resolute. "Xiao Mo, I have witnessed too many noble lives constrained by circumstances beyond their control. Those rules and shackles are not what I desire. As your consort, I couldn't freely see my family, couldn't laugh without restraint, couldn't even have my own thoughts. I don't want to live like that for another day." I deliberately omitted my past lives' experiences, yet every word spoke of its anguish. Xiao Mo's face grew pale, the fire in his eyes fading, replaced by deep disappointment and reluctance. This servant has made herself perfectly clear. I turned away from him, walking toward the door. "Your Highness, please return. What lies between us is impossible." As I passed by Pei Heian, I sensed his gaze upon me, a hint of surprise, and an almost imperceptible flicker of delight. Xiao Mo made no attempt to stop me. He remained rooted to the spot, watching my retreating figure, his voice low and hoarse. "Qin Jiayu, you will regret this." "I won't." Without turning back, I walked resolutely out of the front hall. After Xiao Mo left, father and mother surrounded me, their faces filled with worry. "Jiayu, how could you speak so defiantly to His Highness the Prince of Ning? He is a prince, we cannot afford to offend him." "Father, mother, marriage is not something to be forced," I reassured them. "I know you worry for me, but I truly don't like him. Even if I were to marry him, I wouldn't be happy." Pei Heian stepped beside me, his gaze sincere. "You did the right thing. If you don't like him, you shouldn't force yourself." I looked up at him, suddenly recalling his hesitant expression just before he came with the news. "What were you about to say earlier?" Pei Heian's cheeks flushed instantly, a blush spreading to his ears. He scratched his head, hesitated for a moment, then seemed to gather immense resolve. Taking a deep breath, he said, "Qin Jiayu, I actually came today to tell you something." His gaze locked onto mine, tinged with nervousness and anticipation. "That day at Jade Mountain, I found your marriage token and saw Xiao Mo's name inscribed on it. At first, I was furious, thinking you'd deceived me, but then I thought about it since you took it off. It means you don't want any connection with him either." I know this might sound abrupt. His voice grew softer yet remained clear. "But I still want to tell you I like you. It's not a passing fancy, nor because you once confessed your feelings. It's because these days spent with you have shown me how special you are. Your wisdom, your courage, and your kind heart, they've all captured my heart." I froze. utterly unprepared for his confession at this moment. Sunlight filtered through the crabapple tree in the courtyard, casting a warm glow on his face. His features appeared even more striking, his eyes radiating a sincerity impossible to ignore. In my past life, Pei Heong was the young general revered throughout the capital. Yet he died young. I never imagined I would become entangled with him like this. Reborn. Not only did he avoid dying in battle as he did before, but he also confessed his feelings to me. My cheeks grew warm, my heartbeat quickening involuntarily. Watching his hands clench nervously and the flush spreading to his ears, I suddenly realized that such a sincere young man wasn't so bad after all. I know this is sudden, Pei Heong added quickly when I didn't respond. I'm not asking for an answer right away. Take your time to think it over. Until you've made up your mind, I'll wait for you. I'll also shield you from Xiao Mo's harassment. I won't let him trouble you anymore. I started to speak, but he rushed back in. This time with a look of panic and helplessness. Miss, Prince Ning sent people with a huge amount of gifts. They say it's your betrothal gifts. They've piled them up all over the courtyard, and we can't stop them. Pei Heong and I exchanged glances, both seeing resignation in each other's eyes. Xiao Mo truly wasn't giving up easily. Pei Heong clenched his fist, his gaze unwavering. Don't worry, I'm here. He turned to leave immediately, intent on stopping Xiao Mo's men. I hurriedly called after him. Pei Heong, it's unnecessary, but if he insists on giving them, I simply won't accept them. I shook my head gently. The more we try to stop him, the more determined he might become. Instead, let's give it the cold shoulder. Let him know I truly won't marry him. Pei Heong halted, looking at me with admiration in his eyes. You're right. I was too impulsive. Mother approached, took my hand, and sighed. Jiayu, you've grown up and have your own thoughts now. Mother supports you, no matter who you choose. As long as you're happy. My heart warmed, and I squeezed her hand tightly in return. With my family's support and Pei Heong's protection, even if Xiao Mo remained persistent, I had the courage to face it. Yet I never imagined Xiao Mo's persistence would prove far more stubborn than I'd anticipated. In the days that followed, he sent servants bearing lavish gifts at regular intervals, from imperial pastries to tribute items from the western regions, leaving no stone unturned in making his intentions known. Rumors soon spread throughout the capital, accusing me of ingratitude for rejecting a prince's hand in marriage while entangling myself with a mere lowly general. Though father and mother supported me, they too grew visibly moved. Privately, they urged, Jiayu, Prince Ning is truly a fine man. His feelings for you are genuine. Perhaps you should reconsider. I merely shook my head softly. My resolve remained unshaken. The wounds from my past life ran too deep to be healed by mere promises or piles of gifts. As for Pei Heong, after confessing his feelings, he moved into the abandoned house across from mine. When I went to see him, he sat at the doorway, covered in dust and clutching a small bundle, like a small beast guarding its territory. What are you doing? I couldn't help but laugh. He scratched his head awkwardly. I was afraid if I left, someone would come and poach my territory. Whose territory? I'm not ready to marry yet, I teased. He froze, speechless, his ears flushing red. Seeing him like that, a flicker of hope stirred in my heart. Perhaps this lifetime, I could truly escape the tragedy of my past life and find happiness that truly belonged to me. The atmosphere in the tea pavilion was thick enough to cut with a knife. Xiao Mo and Pei Heong sat facing each other, their icy stares locking in midair, the very air chilled by their tension. My brother and I huddled in a corner, burying our heads in our pastries, not daring to breathe. Brother, what kind of situation is this? I muttered softly, the taste of the pastry gone from my mouth. Returning to Pingqing to celebrate grandmother's birthday was supposed to be a joyful occasion. How had it turned into traveling with two rivals? My brother chewed his bun, his reply muffled. Exactly. Should have never left with you. These two old fogies don't even pack their own food. We sighed in unison, utterly helpless. After I rejected Xiao Mo's marriage proposal, head latched onto me like glue. Insisting he was stopping by pinching on business and insisting on tagging along. Pei Heiyang was even more direct, bluntly stating, "I'm afraid someone might take advantage of you while I'm gone," and eagerly followed suit. After a journey filled with stops and starts, we reached Lu County when I suddenly felt dizzy and lightheaded. My body burned with fever. I couldn't swallow a single bite of food, and I kept vomiting. My brother was terrified. He hurriedly found a relative's home to settle me in, then rushed off to Pingqing himself. Before leaving, he repeatedly urged Xiao Mo and Pei Heiyang, "I entrust my sister to you both. Make absolutely sure nothing happens to her." Xiao Mo nodded solemnly. "Rest assured, Brother Shin. With me here, no one can harm her." Pei Heiyang also patted his chest in assurance. "Hurry back. They'll keep an eye on things here in Jiaoyu." Lying in bed in a hazy daze, fever weakened and delirious, I sensed someone watching over me by the bedside. Sometimes it was Xiao Mo's sharp, pine-scent presence. Other times Pei Heiyang's faint herbal fragrance. They took turns tending to my feeding medicine. Wiping sweat making my suffering somewhat bearable. I thought I could resume our journey once the fever broke. But no one could have anticipated the calamity that struck so suddenly. The afternoon after brother left, deafening battle cries erupted outside, accompanied by the crashing of collapsing houses and the wails of women and children. I jolted awake, my heart pounding wildly. Through the chaos, I faintly heard someone scream, "The Tartars have breached the city. Run for your lives, Tartars." Those two words struck like thunder, making my head buzz. In my past life, Lu County had never been invaded by the Tartars. Why was this happening in this lifetime? "Jiaoyu, don't be afraid." Pei Heiyang burst into the room, his expression grave. "It's not safe outside. Well, take you away." Xiao Mo followed closely behind, sword in hand, his dark brocade robe dusted with grime. "Bandits have colluded with the Tartars. The city's in chaos. Well, hide you first." They supported my weakened form as we hurried to the hidden chamber in the back courtyard. This was a relative storage space for odds and ends, cramped, yet sufficiently concealed. "Stay here and don't make a sound. We'll organize the guards to fight back in return for you soon." Xiao Mo stroked my head, his voice gentle yet unwavering. Pei Heiyang added, "Jiaoyu, trust us. No matter what happens, we'll come back for you." I clutched their sleeves, my heart heavy with worry. "Be careful. Don't get hurt." They exchanged a glance, then turned and dashed out of the hidden room, slamming the door shut behind them. The chamber plunged instantly into darkness, illuminated only by a faint sliver of light seeping through the ventilation shaft. Curled up in the corner, I trembled as the sounds of battle and screams grew louder outside. I silently prayed for their safe return. After an unknown amount of time, the sounds outside gradually subsided. But Xiao Mo and Pei Heiyang still hadn't returned. My panic grew. Just as I was about to peek through the door crack, I suddenly heard the chamber door open. Thinking they had returned, I looked up in relief, only to see my relatives rushing in, their faces frozen in terror. "Jiaoyu, it's terrible. The Tartars have captured the county seat. We must flee immediately." "What about Xiao Mo and Pei Heiyang?" I demanded urgently. My relative waved his hand frantically. "Who has time to think about them? They're said to have fallen in battle. There's a breach in the eastern wall. We must escape through it now. If we delay, it will be too late." Fallen in battle. My heart plummeted, as if struck by a boulder, the pain leaving me breathless. How could this be? They were so formidable. How could they have fallen in battle? "Hurry, Jiaoyu." The relative grabbed my arm, trying to pull me up, but I was too weak to stand. Her expression changed instantly. Seeing my frail state, a flicker of hesitation crossed her eyes before hardening into coldness. "I'm sorry, Jiaoyu. Your aunt has no choice. You're too weak. We can't leave with you." With that, she shook off my hand and hurried out with her family. The maid ran a few steps before turning back. She yanked the twin-fish jade pendant from my waist, the token my mother had given me. Clutching the jade, she ran after them without looking back. "Don't leave me," I cried weakly, my voice faint as a mosquito's buzz. But they never looked back. The dark chamber's door slammed shut, and darkness swallowed me once more. Outside, crackling flames roared, their light flickering through the ventilation shaft, casting the chamber in shifting shadows. Thick smoke seeped through the cracks, choking me into a relentless cough. No, I can't die here. Grasping at the last shred of my will to survive, I struggled to crawl off the bed and fumbled to open the chamber door. Outside, a sea of flames engulfed the house, crackling and roaring as thick smoke billowed, stinging my eyes shut. Grasping the wall for support, I staggered toward the back door, desperate to find Xiao Mo and pay Hien Gavin if there was only a sliver of hope. But after just a few steps, dizziness overtook me. My legs gave way, and I crashed heavily to the floor. The scorching ground burned my skin. I struggled to rise, but my body was utterly limp. I could only watch helplessly as the flames closed in. Just then, a band of bandits wielding long blades charged toward me. Their leader, a man with a brutish, fleshy face, spotted me and his eyes lit up. He bellowed in a coarse voice, "Big brother, there's a beauty up ahead. Call me prefect." The man kicked him, stepped forward, and grabbed my chin, scrutinizing me closely. Suddenly, he burst into maniacal laughter. "It's you. I spotted Xiao Mo and Pei Heong tailing you in the mountains. Those two brats fought over you and killed many of my brothers." Staring at his hideous face, I trembled with fear. "Who are you? What do you want?" "My name is Chao Yu." He grinned, revealing a mouthful of yellow teeth. "Tonight, I'll make the woman they cherish most my prefect's consort." The bandits nearby began jeering, reaching out to grab me. I struggled desperately, but it was useless. I could only watch helplessly as they dragged me toward the prefect's residence. Along the way, I saw corpses strewn everywhere. Houses burned to ashes. The once prosperous Lu County had become a living hell. My heart sank deeper and deeper. Had Xiao Mo and Pei Heong truly fallen in battle? If it weren't for me, would they not have come to Lu County? Would they not have died? Overwhelming guilt and despair enveloped me as tears streamed down my cheeks, hot drops splattering onto the ground. Dragged into the governor's residence, I was bound to a pillar in a room, unable to move. Outside, the shrill laughter of Chao Yu and the Tartars celebrating their victory with wine pierced my ears. Head bowed, my heart lay dead. In my past life, I died from hemorrhaging. Must this life end so too? Xiao Mo, Pei Heong, if you still live, come save me, just as despair consumed me. The door kicked open. Chao Yu staggered in, drunk, a malicious grin on his face. "Why the tears? Today is the joyous day of our wedding night." I lifted my head, glaring at him through clenched teeth. "Where are Xiao Mo and Pei Heong? What have you done to them? So you were worried about them?" Chao Yu roared with laughter. "Rest assured, they're not dead, but they're not far from it." My eyes lit up instantly. "Is that true? Where are they? Want to see them?" "Easy." Chao Yu's eyes twinkled with a sinister grin. "Follow me. I'll take you to them." He untied the ropes binding me, but ordered men to shadow me closely as they led me to the training grounds of the prefect's residence. In the moonlight, I saw two figures bound to separate pillars, Xiao Mo and Pei Heong. They were covered in blood, their clothes torn, faces scarred, barely clinging to life. Yet the moment they saw me, they jerked their heads up. A flicker of light shot through their eyes as they struggled desperately. "Jiao Yu," they cried in unison, their voices hoarse with endless worry. Xiao Mo coughed up blood, his eyes bloodshot. "Chao Yu, if you've got the guts, come after me. Let her go." Pei Heong roared in turn. "You beast. If you dare harm a single hair on her head, I'll tear you limb from limb. Xiao Yu laughed triumphantly. Xiao Mo, you're so full of pride, aren't you? Today, they'll let you watch with your own eyes how I defile the woman you cherish. Seeing them covered in wounds, my heart ached unbearably. Tears streamed down my face. Don't worry about me. Find a way to escape. Silly girl, how could we possibly leave you behind? Pei Heian looked at me with unwavering resolve. I promised I'd protect you. Xiao Mo gazed at me with gentle yet resolute eyes. Xiao Yu, don't be afraid. I'm here. Xiao Yu watched us, his smile growing more sinister. Enough of this spectacle. I'll give you a chance. If Xinjiayu kills one of them, they'll spare the other. He tossed a bow at my feet. 2 deaths or 1 you choose. My mind went blank. I stared at Xiao Yu in disbelief. What did you say? I said, kill one of them. Xiao Yu raised his blade, pressing its icy edge against my throat. Choose. If you don't, they'll kill all 3 of you. None of you will live. I looked at Xiao Mo and Pei Heian chained to the pillars. They stared back at me, their gazes complex filled with worry and reluctance, yet not a trace of blame. Who should I choose? One was the Prince of Ning who had hurt me in a past life yet reincarnated to make amends. The other was the young general who protected me in this life, treating me with genuine kindness. The blade pressed against my throat, the threat of death looming. I knew I had to make a choice, gamble that Xiao Yu would keep his word, gamble that the other could survive. My hands trembled as I picked up the bow from the ground, slowly raising it to aim forward. The icy touch of the blade against my throat felt like a venomous snake's tongue, licking my skin. Xiao Yu's course. Grating laughter echoed through the empty training ground. Moonlight stretched his shadow into grotesque distortions, making it look even more monstrous. My fingers gripped the bow so stiffly they barely obeyed. The cold wood pressed painfully into my palms, each breath carrying the rusty taste of terror. Before me stood 2 pillars, Xiao Mo on the left, and on the right, Pei Heian. Both were covered in blood, barely clinging to life. Yet they strained every ounce of strength to look at me. Their eyes held no blame, only deep, heavy worry. Choose. Why aren't you choosing? Xiao Yu kicked me, sending me stumbling backward. The blade at my throat dug deeper, drawing beads of blood. Hesitate any longer, and I'll kill that little general first. Pei Heian struggled violently, chains scraping his flesh with a shrill screech. Xiao Yu, come at me if you dare. Don't torment a young woman. Xiao Mo coughed up blood, his eyes bloodshot. His voice was hoarse yet unwaveringly firm. Xiao Yu, don't choose me. Let Pei Heian go. He is the pillar of Daqing. He must not die here. I looked at Xiao Mo. My heart clenched as if gripped by an invisible hand. In my past life, he had wounded me deeply. Yet now, he was willing to sacrifice his own life for Pei Heian. For Daqing. And Pei Heian, this young general who protected me and treated me with genuine kindness in this life, he still had a bright future ahead. A mission to safeguard the empire. He couldn't die. I recalled the grief of the capital's citizens when news of Pei Heian's death in battle at Helan Mountain reached them in my past life. I remembered the sincerity in his confession, his persistence in moving to the abandoned house across from mine to protect me. He was a hero, the people's hope. I cannot let him die here. As for Xiao Mo, he is a prince with immense power. Even if he survives today, he has the means to protect himself. More importantly, I still carry the resentment from my past life toward him. That hurt is like a brand, etched deep within my heart, impossible to erase. Xiao Yu, don't listen to him. Pei Heian still roared. It doesn't matter if I die, but you can't kill him. I closed my eyes, tears sliding down my cheeks and dripping onto the bow. I'm sorry, Xiao Mo. In my past life, you wronged me. In this life, I owe you one. Let this arrow settle all the entanglements between us. I drew a deep breath, snapped my eyes open, and pulled the bowstring taut with all my strength. the arrow's tip aimed squarely at Xiao Mo's chest. No! Pei Heong cried out in despair. Xiao Mo looked at me, his expression complex and hard to read: shock, resentment, and a hint of pain I couldn't fathom. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but in the end, he only twisted his lips into a bitter smile. The arrow sliced through the air with a sharp whistle, flying straight toward Xiao Mo. With a dull thud, it plunged deep into his chest. Blood gushed instantly, staining his black brocade robe crimson. Time seemed to freeze. Xiao Mo's body swayed. He looked down at the arrow in his chest, then raised his eyes to me. His lips moved, whispering softly, "Jiaoyu." The sound was faint, tinged with a hint of release and a touch of regret. Moments later, the light in his eyes gradually faded. His head slowly dropped, never to move again. Ha 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 ha. Good. Well done. Chao Yu erupted in maniacal laughter, clapping his hands. Miss Shen truly knows when to bow out. I tossed the bow aside, trembling uncontrollably like a sieve. My hands were drenched in Xiao Mo's blood. The warm, sticky sensation made my stomach churn violently. Yet nothing came up. I had killed someone. I had killed Xiao Mo. In my past life, he betrayed me. In this life, I killed him. Between us, the score was finally settled. Take her away. Tonight, she becomes my governor's wife. Chao Yu waved his hand, and several bandits immediately stepped forward, seizing my arms. Like a marionette, I was dragged back into the room and tossed onto the cold floor. The door slammed shut behind me, the lock clicking into place. Outside, Chao Yu and the Tartars celebrated with drunken laughter and lewd remarks about me, piercing my ears. Curled in a corner, hugging my knees, my mind went blank. Only Xiao Mo's final gaze kept replaying in my mind. What did those bottomless eyes conceal? Regret, resentment, or resignation? I didn't know. All I knew was that I no longer hated him. From now on, we owed each other nothing. In the next life, may we never meet again. The moon hung high in the sky. The laughter outside gradually faded. Likely because Chao Yu had drunk too much. My fever had broken somewhat, and my mind cleared. I couldn't just sit here and wait for death. I had to escape. I scanned the room. It was sparsely furnished: just a bed, a table, and a chair. The windows were boarded up, and the door was locked tight. I struggled to my feet, searching for something to pick the lock. Just then, a faint sound came from outside the door, like someone trying to pick the lock. My heart leapt. Was it Chao Yu? Or, the door creaked open. A dark figure darted in, quickly covering my mouth. "Jiaoyu. It's me. Don't make a sound." That familiar voice, it was Pei Heong. I turned in surprise. In the moonlight streaming through the window, I saw his face covered in scars, his clothes torn. Yet his eyes were bright. He swiftly cut the ropes binding me and pulled me toward the window. "Quick, come with me." "How did you escape? What about Xiao Mo?" My voice trembled, tears spilling despite myself. "Don't ask now. I'll explain on the way." Pei Heong pulled me close, using a pre-prepared tool to pry open the wooden boards covering the window. He wrapped his arms around my waist and leapt down. The guards outside had already been quietly incapacitated by him, lying sprawled haphazardly on the ground. We skirted the base of the wall, moving swiftly toward the main gate. As we passed a corner, I suddenly spotted a familiar figure lying there. It was Xiao Mo. I stopped in my tracks, my voice choked with emotion. "Your arrow missed its mark. It didn't hit a vital spot," Pei Heong whispered. "After I escaped, I rescued him first. Come on, let's go together." He hoisted Xiao Mo onto his back, took my hand, and dashed into the night. No sooner had we left the prefectural mansion than shouts erupted behind us. "Trouble! They've escaped!" "Pursuit!" Countless torches flared, illuminating the night sky as bandits swarmed in. Pei Heong led us through a series of evasive maneuvers, deliberately choosing the most secluded alleys. His stamina was remarkable, carrying one person on his back while holding my hand, yet still running at breakneck speed. After an unknown duration of running, we reached a dry well. Pei Heong glanced at the torches closing in behind us and urgently commanded, "Quick! Hide in the well." He lowered Xiao Mo first, then helped me climb down the rope while covering us from above. Only after we were both safely inside did he leap down, then moved several stones to block the well opening. The well was pitch black, with only faint light seeping through cracks in the stones. The three of us huddled at the bottom, hearing each other's breaths and heartbeats. "How did you escape?" I gasped, whispering to Pei Heong. Pei Heong chuckled softly, a hint of pride in his voice. "Those barbarians couldn't possibly overpower me. They only subdued me with a sleeping potion. Now that its effects have worn off, that flimsy rope couldn't hold me back." "What do we do now?" I pressed. "Don't worry," Pei Heong reassured me. "The Pei family army isn't far from Lu County. They should be here by now. We just need to hide here for a couple of days. Once the main force arrives, the Tartars will be driven out, and we'll be able to get out safely." I nodded, feeling slightly calmer. In the darkness, I could feel Xiao Mo's body still faintly warm, his breath faint. In all the rushing, I forgot to bandage him. Pei Heong suddenly remembered something. Fumbling in his robe to pull out a small bundle containing some wound medicine and cloth strips. "Jiaoyu, help me hold him steady while I tend to his wounds." I fumbled to remove my hairpin from my hair, using its faint glow to illuminate Xiao Mo's chest. The arrow still protruded from his skin, blood soaking through his clothes. Pei Heong carefully pulled out the arrow. Xiao Mo let out a muffled groan, his body convulsing violently. "Bear with it." Pei Heong swiftly applied medicine and bandaged the wound. After finishing, we were both utterly exhausted, leaning against the well wall to rest. The air at the bottom of the well was damp, thick with the earthy stench of mud, yet I felt an immense sense of peace. At least, we were still alive. After an unknown span of time, Xiao Mo's fingers twitched, and he slowly opened his eyes. In the darkness, his gaze fell upon me, carrying a hint of confusion that swiftly turned to shattered disappointment. His voice was hoarse, barely audible. "Jiaoyu, do you truly despise me so much?" My heart clenched painfully. I lowered my head, unable to meet his eyes. "I don't despise you." "Then why did you choose him?" He pressed, his tone laced with reluctance. "I thought, Pei Heong is a general who protects the empire. Da Qing cannot do without him." I paused briefly before speaking truthfully. "But you, even without me, you can live well." "I'm useless." Xiao Mo's voice suddenly rose, tinged with irritation, nearly triggering another coughing fit. Pei Heong quickly intervened. "Jiaoyu, how could you say such a thing? Over the years, His Highness has led troops to suppress countless rebels and bandits. The citizens of the capital live in safety largely thanks to him." His tone was sincere, yet I could sense the unhidden joy in his eyes. His lips curved slightly upward before quickly tightening again. Xiao Mo remained silent for a long while. A faint, self-mocking chuckle echoed in the darkness. "I understand. I've lost after all." Silence descended once more upon the well, only the intertwined sounds of our three breaths echoing in the darkness. I knew that after this arrow, the relationship between Xiao Mo and me was truly and completely over, and the path ahead for me and Pei Heong was still very long indeed. The air in the dry well was damp and cold, the earthy stench mingling with a faint scent of blood, choking my throat. Curled against the well wall, I listened to the steady breathing of the two beside me, yet sleep eluded me. In the darkness, only the faint light seeping through cracks in the stone allowed me to dimly make out Xiao Mo's pale profile and Pei Heong's furrowed brow. We had been trapped at the bottom of this well for 2 days. At first, we had managed to survive on the few dry rations Pei Heong carried, but now they were long gone. Hunger gnawed at our stomachs with increasing intensity. Xiao Mo's chest wound, lacking medicine, showed signs of inflammation, causing him to cough softly from time to time. Cough. Xiao Mo's cough shattered the silence. He struggled to sit up, but the movement tugged at his wound, causing him to gasp sharply in pain. Pei Heong quickly supported him. Don't move. Your wound hasn't healed yet. I fumbled to remove the hairpin from my hair and used its faint light to examine Xiao Mo's chest. The bandages were soaked through with blood, dark and discolored. The wound seems to have worsened, I said, my voice tinged with worry. Xiao Mo opened his eyes, his gaze settling on me with a hint of self-mockery. No need to trouble yourself. I won't die. What do you mean you won't die? Pei Heong frowned. Jiayu is right. Your wound must be treated. He reached into his robe and pulled out a small vial. This is the last of my wound medicine. Change the dressing first. Xiao Mo didn't refuse, letting Pei Heong unbutton his shirt. In the dim light, the arrow wound looked gruesome and terrifying. I instinctively turned my face away, feeling a pang of guilt. That arrow was mine. Though I missed my mark, it had still inflicted such a severe injury. I'm sorry, I murmured. Xiao Mo paused, lifting his gaze to meet mine. You needn't apologize. You made the right choice. His voice was eerily calm, devoid of emotion. Pei Heong is a hero, worthy of your trust. But me, he paused, offering a self-mocking smile. I've never been a good man. My heart tightened. I turned to look at him. I didn't choose him because you're inadequate. It's just that between us, we missed too much. Missed. Xiao Mo repeated the words, his gaze complex. I pushed you away myself, didn't I? I fell silent. In my past life, he chose to be with Qingmei while I was giving birth. In this life, he was obsessed with making amends. Yet he never truly understood what I wanted. The rift between us could never be bridged by a simple I'm sorry. While changing Xiao Mo's bandages, Pei Heong spoke up. Your Highness, Jiayu never desired wealth or prestige. What she sought was stability and genuine affection. You could grant her noble status, but you could never give her the freedom she craved. Xiao Mo offered no rebuttal, only staring silently into the darkness at the bottom of the well. After a long moment, he spoke slowly. I know, in my past life, I always believed that providing her with the finest material comforts and shielding her from harm was the best way to love her. But I forgot that she was never truly happy in the prince's mansion. Even her smiles were forced and guarded. His voice carried a barely perceptible tremor. When I was reborn, I thought that if I could just capture her sooner, prevent her from meeting Shuiru, I could change the outcome. But I never imagined that even without Shuiru, the problems between us would still exist. Shuiru. I paused, the name both unfamiliar and strangely familiar. She was my childhood sweetheart from my past life. Xiao Mo explained flatly. Only after rebirth did I realize my feelings for her were merely youthful obsession, not true love. Yet it was this very obsession that caused you the deepest pain. So that was it. In my past life, I always believed he deeply loved that woman in purple, never realizing it was merely obsession. Yet even so, the damage was done, and we could never go back. It's all in the past. I murmured softly. Xiao Mo, I don't hate you anymore. This arrow settles all our grievances. From now on, may we each find peace. Xiao Mo looked at me, a flicker of relief and reluctance in his eyes. All right. Peace to each of us. Silence descended once more upon the well, broken only by the three of us breathing and our stomachs growling. Hunger gnawed at me fiercely, my vision blurring and head spinning until I could barely hold myself upright. Pei Heong noticed my distress, pulling a small, hard, dry biscuit from his robe and offering it to me. This is the last one. You eat it. You eat it. I'm not hungry. I shook my head, pushing it back. You've barely eaten anything for 2 days. If you don't eat, your body will collapse. Pei Heong insisted, then turned to Xiao Mo. Your Highness, please have some too. Xiao Mo waved his hand. "Am not hungry. You two eat." With no other option, Pei Heong broke the cake in half and pressed one piece into my hands. "Eat it quickly, or I'll feed it to you myself." Meeting his earnest gaze, I took the cake and began nibbling at it bit by bit, though dry and hard, making it difficult to swallow. It offered some relief to my gnawing hunger. In the darkness, I could feel Pei Heong's gaze fixed on me, heavy with worry. "Are we going to die here?" I couldn't help asking, a barely perceptible edge of panic in my voice. Pei Heong immediately reassured me. "No, we won't. I've made arrangements with the Pei family army. They'll find us soon. Just hang on a little longer, and we'll be out of here," Xiao Mo added. "Don't worry. Qiao Yi's forces can't hold out much longer. The Imperial Army should be here soon." Their reassurances calmed me somewhat. Leaning against the well wall, I closed my eyes. Flashes of memories flooded my mind. My life in the prince's mansion in my past life. The trials since my rebirth. And these past 2 days of shared peril at the bottom of this well. Perhaps this ordeal wasn't entirely bad. It allowed me to see my own heart clearly, helped Xiao Mo let go of his obsessions, and strengthened the bond between Pei Heong and me through this life and death test. I don't know how much time passed. In my daze, I seemed to hear the sound of hooves and shouts coming from outside the well. "Is anyone there? Anyone down there?" It was the Pei family army. Pei Heong snapped his eyes open and shouted toward the well opening. "We're here. We're at the bottom of the well." A flurry of activity erupted at the top, and soon a rope was lowered. "General." It's the general's voice. Pei Heong urged me to grab the rope first. "You go up first." I shook my head. "Let Xiao Mo go up first. His injuries are the worst." Xiao Mo waved it off. "No need. You go first. Pei Heong and I will cover the rear." Amidst the argument, Pei Heong had already secured the rope around my waist. "Do as I say. You go first. We'll be right behind you," he shouted toward the well opening. "Pull him up." I was slowly hauled upward, the wind whistling in my ears growing ever clearer. When I finally climbed out of the well and saw the sunlight, I couldn't help but squint. Outside, the area was filled with soldiers of the Pei family army, clad in armor. Seeing me emerge, they all wore expressions of joy. "Miss Shin, are you all right?" A soldier hurried forward to support me. I shook my head and asked urgently, "Quick! There are still 2 people down there. One is injured. You must pull them up." The soldiers obeyed immediately. Soon, Pei Heong and Xiao Mo were pulled up as well. Xiao Mo, severely wounded, fainted the moment he touched the ground. Pei Heong quickly ordered someone to fetch the military doctor to treat him. Standing where I was, gazing at the devastated landscape of Lu County before me, my heart was filled with a whirlwind of emotions. Collapsed houses littered the streets, and the air was thick with the acrid smell of gunpowder. This calamity had claimed far too many lives. "Jiayu, how are you? Are you hurt anywhere?" Pei Heong approached me, scanning my body with concern in his eyes. I shook my head, my heart warming at the sight of the scars on his face and the weariness in his eyes. "I'm fine. You, on the other hand, have been through so much. As long as you're okay." Pei Heong smiled, reaching out to ruffle my hair before remembering something and awkwardly withdrawing his hand. The military doctor finished his examination quickly and reported to Pei Heong. "General, Prince Ning's injuries are severe but not life-threatening. With proper rest, he'll recover soon." Pei Heong exhaled in relief. "That's good." Watching soldiers carry Xiao Mo away, a weight lifted from my heart. Those days in the dry well felt like an endless ordeal, yet they also untangled the knots in all 3 of our hearts. Xiao Mo had let go of his obsession. I had released my resentment. And through this life-and-death ordeal, Pei Heong and I had confirmed our feelings for each other. Sunlight gradually dispersed the dark clouds, bathing us in its warm glow. I knew this calamity had finally passed. My life was about to begin anew. Yet, I had no idea what lay ahead for us. The streets of the capital were awash in festive red, filled with the clamor of gongs and drums and the roar of the crowd. Standing on tiptoe amidst the throng, I watched the triumphant procession in the distance. Silver armor glinted dazzlingly in the sunlight, and at its head stood the young general, his posture straight and proud, none other than Pei Heong, the one I had longed for day and night. Tears fell without warning. All the worry, prayers, and dread of the past 6 months dissolved into scalding tears at the sight of his safe return. He hadn't lied to me after all, had come back alive. Pei Heong seemed to sense my gaze. Through the throng, he looked my way, a radiant smile curving his lips. The tenderness and resolve in his eyes alone were enough to dispel all my unease. As the procession drew nearer, he dismounted. Ignoring the cheers of the surrounding people, he strode swiftly toward me, pulling me into his embrace. Xiao Mo. Back. The scent of frontier dust and gunpowder clung to him, yet it filled me with profound peace. I knew you'd come back, I choked out, clinging tightly to his waist. News reached the Shen household. Father and mother wept tears of joy, while brother busied himself arranging a grand banquet. 3 days later, Pei Heong arrived bearing lavish betrothal gifts to formally propose marriage. Scarlet silk draped the courtyard walls of the Shen residence, while the clamor of gongs and drums echoed from one end of the street to the other, creating an atmosphere of extraordinary festivity. Mother held my hand as she dressed me, chattering away. Things will be so much better now. General Pei is a dependable man. He'll treat you well. I smiled and nodded, my heart brimming with anticipation. Reborn. I had finally escaped the tragedy of my past life and was about to embrace true happiness of my own. The days preparing for the wedding were busy yet sweet. Whenever he had free time, Pei Heong would come to the Shen residence to help, accompanying me as I selected my wedding gown and tried on the phoenix crown. He awkwardly tried to adjust my skirt, always ending up making a mess of it, which made me laugh out loud. This simple, genuine happiness was something I had never known in my previous life. The day before the wedding, Xiao Mo sent his gifts. They filled the entire courtyard, from rare jade and antique treasures to precious brocades and silks, nearly emptying half his mansion. Staring at those priceless offerings, my heart felt a tangled mix of emotions. Soon after, Xiao Mo arrived in person, clad in a moon-white brocade robe. His complexion remained pale yet far more serene than before. Xiao. He gazed at me with a complex expression, devoid of his former obsession and resentment. Consider these gifts as my contribution to your dowry, Your Highness. This is far too extravagant. I cannot accept it. I hastily declined. Yet he smiled, his voice trembling slightly. If you refuse to accept them, I shall have no choice but to abduct you as my bride. His tone carried a hint of jest, yet also a measure of earnestness. I knew he was now truly capable of such an act. Father and mother urged from the side. Xiao, the prince's intentions are sincere. Please accept them. I could only nod, murmuring softly, "Thank you, Your Highness." May you and Pei Heong share a heartfelt bond, blessed with joy and fortune. His gaze upon me held a flicker of release. This was my debt to you. Now, it is finally repaid. Looking at him, the last shred of resentment in my heart vanished. May Your Highness also find a worthy partner, blessed with a lifetime of peace and fortune. Xiao Mo gave a slight nod, saying nothing more before turning away, watching his lonely retreating figure. I knew all the tangled threads between us had finally come to an end. On the wedding day, Qing horns blared as the crimson palanquin arrived at the door, dressed in a deep red bridal gown and crowned with a phoenix diadem. My father carried me into the palanquin. As the curtain fell, I lifted a corner and saw Pei Heong atop a majestic steed, clad in wedding attire, his eyes twinkling with joy. He gazed dreamily at the palanquin. The ceremony was lively yet solemn, with guests filling the hall and laughter filling the air. Xiao Mo was there too, standing quietly among the crowd as he watched Pei Heong and me exchange vows. His eyes held no trace of emotion, Only genuine blessings. At the wedding banquet, Xiao Mo stepped forward, raised his wine cup, and addressed Pei Heong. General Pei, Jiayu is a fine young woman. From now on, you must treat her well. Pei Heong nodded solemnly. Your Highness. Rest assured, I will protect her with my life. They drained their cups in unison. All past grievances and entanglements vanished like smoke with that single sip. Our married life unfolded in quiet contentment. Pei Heong never burdened me with tedious household chores nor restricted my freedom. He accompanied me to visit my parents at the Shen residence, took me on spring outings beyond the city walls, and sat with me in the courtyard at night, gazing at the stars while recounting amusing tales from the frontier. Sometimes we'd stroll along the riverbank, our bare feet dipping into the cool water as we laughed and played. This was a freedom and joy I'd never dared dream of in my past life. One day, we encountered Xiao Mo leading his troops by the river. He reined in his horse, watching us with a faint smile. Beasts have been roaming the mountains lately. Don't linger too long. Thank you for the warning, Your Highness. Pei Heong and I replied in unison. Xiao Mo nodded, saying nothing more. He turned his horse and led his troops away. His back was straight and solitary, yet devoid of the former obsession and resentment. Leaning against Pei Heong's shoulder, I watched Xiao Mo's receding figure. My heart filled with profound calm. The wounds of my past life had long been soothed by time. The encounters and entanglements of this rebirth had finally reached a perfect conclusion. Sunlight danced across the river's surface, creating a warm and dazzling shimmer. I knew that in this life, I had finally found the happiness that truly belonged to me. With the love of family, the protection of my beloved, and the freedom to live as I wished, this was the greatest fulfillment of my existence. The story concludes. Thank you for reading. The next chapter promises even greater excitement.